Hey, Keke back again, and today we're going to talk about Skull and Bones and a little bit about the CEO of Ubisoft calling it a quadruple A game. Now let's start with this. Kotaku reports that the game has apparently cost Ubisoft upwards of 120 million, but a deal with the government of Singapore, where the main development studio making the game is based, is providing generous subsidies. The conditions of these subsidies include hiring people at Ubisoft Singapore studio and the studio releasing original IPs over the next few years. Now that sounds all well and good that they're getting support from the government studio, but in all honesty, like I said a while ago, that if they didn't have this contract with the government, they would have abandoned the Skull and Bones game a long time ago. And now let's talk about the quadruple A game stuff. As we all know by now that everybody calls it Skull and Bones a quadruple A game. And because of that, there's also some people on Twitter posting. This post was from 2020, where Beyond Good and Evil 2 has been labeled as quadruple A. And maybe that's why it hasn't released yet. It took Skull and Bones 11 years to release. So I guess we're gonna wait a couple more years before we get Beyond Good and Evil 2, which most likely will not happen anytime soon. So let's get into a bit of an article here, which is during a Q&A session as part of the conference call discussing Ubisoft's sales for its fiscal year 2024, one caller pointed out that Skull and Bones now appears to be taking more live service approach. The game's Year 1 roadmap was recently published, for example. The caller asked why Ubisoft was insisting on charging $70 for the game and potentially limiting the size of its player base, suggesting a free-to-play model may better suit the live service mechanics and give it a better chance of building a community. Now, I don't think free-to-play would have been better in this case for Skull and Bones per se, but $70 is definitely not the game's worth. Now, Ubisoft CEO, no idea how to pronounce his surname, so he replied with an assertion that Skull and Bones deserves to be a full-price game because of its scale. Now that's quite ironic, considering that there is nothing to the game that's worthwhile. The only thing on scale it might be is how much they spent on it to release a project that is completely and utterly devoid of any content. Now let's continue. You will see that Skull and Bones is a fully fledged game, he said. It's a very big game and we feel that people will really see how vast and complete that game is. It's really full, triple, quadruple A game that will deliver in the long run. Which, at the current state, it has no content, no story, no nothing. There is nothing, what he said there, that justifies in the game. The game is bare bones. Okay, admittedly, I will say the combat in it looks fun, like the ship combat. If it was just the naval simulator, it wouldn't be perfect combat type, but it's a pirate game, and there's nothing. You can't even fight on the ships themselves, which is a huge disappointment. And content-wise, it's also not really that full of content. There's barely any content at all. Like I said, there's no story, which should have been there, but there isn't. Now let's see. An open beta for Skull and Bones started today and will run until February 11. The beta supports cross-progression and cross-play. Progression will be kept at the rank of Brigand Tier 6 Rank 1 and will carry over to the full game, which at the time of recording, beta is already over, the game's already released. It had a troubled development, and to be fair, back then, a couple of years ago, the game really looked nice, like it was a good pirate game. By the looks of it, they did all the good decisions, and what happened in that time, why they decided to rebrand the whole thing completely, good question. Now, there are some comments, so we'll read them now. And let's start with the first one on the list. He says, I hope this game tanks. Now, I wouldn't personally say I hope any games tank, but it was no surprise that this one would, seeing how this is the type of game that was deemed to fail. I mean, doomed to fail from the start. At least we know what the next big live service game failure is going to be after Suicide Squad. I also look forward to Ubisoft following it up with a... Is that 5As? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, 5A live service game costing $120. That's how it works, right? Adding an additional A means you can charge more. At this point, it seems like that's Ubisoft's logic. And there's a comment that I find kind of funny. So funny seeing this next to Helldivers 2 release at $40. Go F yourself, CEO of Ubisoft. Still no idea how to pronounce that surname. And honestly, yeah, why would somebody buy a Skull and Bones that is barely any content and doesn't offer anything much to the players for $70 when you have some games like Helldivers 2, which, even though the gameplay loop is simple, the game in itself is fun. I mean, numbers speak for itself. It has issues keeping up with the player base for server capacity. It's a really successful game. It is a live service game, but it's a fun game, and the way they've done monetization doesn't make you feel like you have to spend it. It's more like an option if you want to support developers further, which is a very good thing about that game. Now, I don't know why the Ubisoft is doing this. Well, I know why. They want the least amount of effort for the most amount of profit, but it's not a long-term plan for them to go that way, because people are gonna just choose other games to play. There's plenty of other games, so why choose one that will waste your time over the one that will actually satisfy you when you play it? Oh, there's some X posts, and this one starts with: been playing quite a bit of Skull and Bones beta, and while I'm having fun, I do have concerns about the long-term enjoyment. We wanted more of the Black Flag naval combat, but with the other elements stripped away, now I'm not so sure it works as well with just the naval combat. Exactly. That's the biggest issue for me personally with Skull and Bones, is the fact that, like I said, the naval combat looks fun, but it's missing combat on the ships themselves, the raiding of the ships. And I don't mean raiding in just as a cutscene. That's complete bullshit, and you can not include it even. In all honesty, it doesn't do nothing for you just to see some dudes jump over to the next ship and voila, you get their loot. It should have been where you could actively participate when you jump over to the next ship and have ship battles on the deck. Like on the deck you have melee combat. But no, all we get is a cutscene that's not even that cool. And this post is by Gamer Ability, and they state that I was not expecting to enjoy Skull and Bones at all, but I cannot stop playing the open beta. The game is so much better than I expected, and it's just so fun to play. Definitely not a game for everyone. If you like naval combat, check out the open beta before it ends this weekend. Now, I always say, I don't doubt there will be people that enjoy Skull and Bones. There's games for everyone out there, and not everyone enjoys the same type of games as the others do. Some people, for some reason, enjoy bad games, and even though if you look at the good side of Skull and Bones, which is the naval combat, that's one thing they've done quite good, I would say, but it's not supposed to be a naval combat simulator. It's supposed to be a pirate game, and pirate games are not only just naval combat. And with the next post, Adrian Auguste. I tried Skull and Bones beta. It truly saddened me to see how a formula proven to work in Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag can be turned into the broken, buggy mess of a live service MMO. Ubisoft has fallen far. Yep, it has indeed. The recent years especially. Ubisoft's been going downhill. Now let's go with some reviews, since, like I said earlier in the video, I'm recording this after release of the game, a couple of days after release. Now, on Metacritic, the critics average is 64, while player user score is 3.0. And let's read some of those comments, shall we? Now, as always, there are some people who really enjoy this game and call it the best piracy game so far. Even though, I will tell you right now, the best pirate game out there, currently from the newer games, would be Sea of Thieves. It's not that new anymore, but in all honesty, if you want the pirate game, go for Sea of Thieves. It's way better than Skull and Bones in being a pirate. Now let's start with this first comment. Look like a game 10 years old with browser game mechanics in a AAA game. Yeah, what else can one say? So let's start with the next comment. I hope to love this game, but unfortunately not. The game has no story. It could be fun to play only with friends. If you play solo, it's a super grindy game. Now that's the thing about these games, is you can make any bad game into a fun game if you bring a friend along. Ultimately, playing games together is way better than playing it alone. And in Skull and Bones, even if you bring a friend along, it's gonna only last so long before you feel like this game's not worth your time at all. Not saying it's gonna be like that for everyone, but I imagine that being the case for the majority of people out there. And I've been playing Helldivers for a while now, and I still haven't been bored, even though I play daily for a lot of hours. And that would not be the case with Skull and Bones. It just wouldn't be. There's no content to do. Even though, like I said earlier, gameplay loop is simple, the game is fun. If you would just focus on making the game fun, the player base would follow and you would get sales. But they are focused more on how to monetize it more than it is how to make a game fun. And that's the sad truth about it. If you make the game fun, the players will in turn support you with your monetizations. But since you don't have a fun game and all you have is monetizations, the players ain't gonna support that, because why would they? It's a waste of their time and money, which Ubisoft at this point are masters at doing, is wasting people's time and money. Next comment. Biggest disappointment in a while. Uninstalled after 60 plus hours of gameplay. It is an incomplete beta sold as a full AAA game, leaving the multitude of bugs on the side. There is half the map that you cannot access. It is there, you can scroll with your mouse and see that it moves under the fog of war, but there is no way to unlock it, most likely because they saved it for the season pass or it is not finished yet. I strongly recommend people to avoid buying the game. If you're curious, get a UB Plus subscription and it should clear the things for you. Judging from how much they took to build the game and how many times it was delayed, I would say that probably in about 5 years it will be ready to be considered a full game. A shame, I was really looking forward to this one. And that's the problem with nowadays gaming industry in general. They release broken games and fix them later. You get the full product like months later, after they've sorted through all the bugs. And it shouldn't be accepted, but there ain't much we can do about it either. Besides voice our complaints. And if developers listen, they listen. If not, they're not. I mean, we can also stop buying those games, but we all know we ain't gonna stop. Ubisoft again makes a shit game and says its AAA should cost $70. They've been doing that for a long ass time, and I don't see them stopping that anytime soon either. I don't think they will ever lower their pricing range from $70, because in their eyes it will be a loss of money. And instead of them making a good game and then players supporting that game and buying the game, and you'll have a lot of sales, as we've seen multiple times with successful games, if they make fun games, they get a lot of sales. It's really that simple, but I don't know why developers nowadays think it's better to just make a bare bones game and that's all there is. Or gaming developers that think graphics is everything and then you have gameplay that is barely anything. In a game, first thing that should come is gameplay. And that's as simple as it gets. First get your gameplay right, the rest can follow afterwards. It doesn't need to be graphically the most impressive game ever. All it has to be is impressive in gameplay. You play games to have fun, and if you don't have fun while playing that game, the gameplay sucks, people are not gonna support that game. Simple. And I think that's all for today's video for me, and I'll see you guys next time.